No, I can't do it. It's too easy. If you've been on the internet for the past couple of days, and you've probably seen something along the lines of Justice League or Kill the Justice League or anything like that, and it's been trending in some places, and you might be asking yourself, wait, why are they trending essentially? Well, it's because the brand new game from Warner Brothers and RockSteady is releasing very soon, and the official media outlets and even some content creators have been allowed to publish their previews. And something they should have done obviously a while ago, WB has finally released the NDA that many of us were under when the closed alpha was available back in late November or December times. Now, if you remember, that was actually a very public thing where they announced the alpha and you could sign up. But then you read the fine print when they sent you the code if you got in, and they said, yeah, you're not allowed to talk about this, you can't make videos on it, you can't do anything like that. So we don't have any actually B-roll of anything, but we do have the 25-minute clip that they themselves have released, plus we have the trailers and everything like that. So that's mostly what the B-roll is gonna be talking about. I wanna talk about two things in this video. First off is just my overall impressions from the alpha. Do I think this game is gonna be good? Do I think it's gonna be bad? What to actually expect from this game? Because I feel like there's still a lot of people expecting one thing, when in reality, there's gonna be something completely different. And this game most likely is not gonna be for a lot of people. The other thing I wanna talk about is what happened with all the previews and the fact that a good majority of them, they're pretty negative, which is really unheard of when it comes to these particular type of preview events. Usually they're very positive, and if they're held, then generally it's because the development team / the publishers know that this game is somewhat gonna have a positive outlook, at least within the initial release. Maybe not so much when it gets out into the public or maybe a few months down the line, but regardless, they know that, you know what, a lot of people are gonna be excited to see this and they're gonna wanna, pre-order and everything, reserve it, all that stuff. That's not the case with this game. And this is a live service game, which we'll get into a bit here, but there's a lot of stuff to talk about. So I want to go over all of this stuff here in this particular video. So if you had an opportunity to either check out the previews, if you got to actually play the alpha yourself, or you're watching this later on after the game has been released, let us know your thoughts down below in the comments. Do you like the game? Do you think the game is absolute garbage? Just everything in between. What are your personal thoughts? Are you picking this game up? Have you picked this game up? And just how's it going? Or you know what? Heck, even if you're somebody who's watching this, I would say like 5 months into the future, so I don't know, summer of 2024 at the latest, then let us know, is the game still around? Were we right? Were we wrong? And just overall, how is it surviving? Is it, flourishing? Is it barely keeping alive? Just let us know all your thoughts down below in the comments. We'll try to answer as many as we possibly can. And again, we're gonna see what everyone thinks. And also, if you enjoyed these discussion videos, preview type of videos, all that kind of stuff, then leave a like on the video. That tells us that you like more of these things and we want to bring more of these with you. And if you also want to talk to us in person, join us on our live streams. We do at least once a week, maybe twice a week, depending on what the schedule is and everything. We talk about everything gaming. I mean, literally everything gaming. So come on by, tell us what your thoughts are and everything like that, and we'll have a conversation and everything. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Now, if you've been living under a rock when it comes to RockSteady and the games that they have made, then you might know them for a little trilogy called the Batman Arkham games. Yes, Batman Arkham Asylum, Batman Arkham City, and Batman Arkham Knight are considered some of the best adventure games in that genre, and to this day, pretty much considered the best superhero games. Now, whether or not you're tired of superheroes and comics and all that kind of stuff, whether it's from mainstream media, TV shows, movies, you name it, you cannot deny that the Arkham games were really fun to play. Were they perfect games? No, absolutely not, but they were fun. They took a concept back in the day when the original one released, where everyone thought, you can never do comic books good, you can never do superheroes good or anything like that, and RockSteady looked at us and said, hold my beer. And that's exactly what they did. They made a trilogy of amazing games. Again, they weren't perfect or anything. Arkham Knight had the Batmobile, which a lot of people didn't really like because it was definitely forced a little bit too much. But the combat, the look, the story, everything, it all resonated really well with us and we all loved it. Not to mention, you have the amazing performances by both Batman and Joker, who are obviously in all three games and everything like that. And their voice actors, top of the notch, best of the voice actors for both Batman and Joker. I will die on that hill. They're obviously amazing actors who have played the roles throughout history, but in terms of the ones I personally like, especially when we get into the animated realm, rest in peace, Kevin Conroy, we miss you a lot. So after the Arkham games finished, RockSteady basically went silent, and they've been that way for almost a decade now. Then, after about 7 to 8 years, we start to see some rumors. And what do we find out? Well, we get a reveal trailer, and that trailer is showing off a brand new game called Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. And at first, when you look at the initial trailers, you know, there's CG and everything like that, showing off the voice acting and everything. For the most part, all of these videos have pretty high upvotes. No one really knew how the games are going to play. We didn't know any of the mechanics of it. We didn't know how the story was going to unravel. Is this in the Arkham universe? Is this in a parallel universe? I mean, again, it's DC. The whole multiverse concept has always been there, right? So it was interesting to kind of be like, oh, okay, so is this going to be some kind of like co-op single player story focus game? Is this going to be like you're only playing as maybe Harley Quinn, for example, because we knew her from the Arkham games, and maybe you've got some cool side combo finish moves with the other 3 members of the Suicide Squad? Again, no one really knew anything, but overall, a lot of people were excited because, again, RockSteady, right? Where it's like, yes, we are ready to go when it comes to this game. Then we didn't really see anything else. We saw some little trailers dropped here and there, but again, they're mostly CG and everything like that. And then in early February 2022, we saw the first gameplay reveal, and oh boy, did it not go the way they thought it was gonna go. Holy crap, that thing got more dislikes in record time, I think, than any kind of reveal since quite a while, at least I can remember. Not really, that's not really the case, but again, a lot of dislikes because a lot of people were going like, yes, this is RockSteady, we're ready to see it, and generic looter shooter in an open empty world, and that was basically it, right? That's all the headlines and everything that we saw throughout those months, and even to this day, technically sometimes, that's what everyone knows. Your first impressions are huge. Anytime, whether it's a game reveal, a game release, anything, first impressions are important. I mean, let's be perfectly honest here. It doesn't matter if this game comes out absolutely perfect, shuts all the critics up and everything. Everyone still has that initial reveal in their head, and a lot of people will not pick up this game. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some reasons to be critical of this game and what it is basically presenting to us, right? But again, that initial impression is a big deal. And as you've probably seen with some of their developer diary type videos and everything like that, the dislikes have just been outshining the likes like no tomorrow, and it's not fun. It's definitely not fun, especially if you're a developer on that team. It can't be fun to see that. So up until this point, everyone's kind of just been saying like, oh, this game is absolutely done, gone, dead on arrival. We've seen it with tons of other live service games. This is just WB chasing the trends, forcing RockSteady to make this game, and to an extent that is kind of true, unfortunately, right? We all expected to see some type of particular game from RockSteady, and then we get this essentially. But I think there's a little bit more to that, because if we look at all of these previews and everything that are, again, they're pretty negative and everything like that, the core thing I see from all this negativity is just simply that a lot of people wanted this type of game, and we got this. Now, I'm not saying that you're not allowed to want something from one of maybe your potential favorite developers or from a team that you truly respect and everything, but in the end, it's been over a year at the minimum that we've known about how this game is going to look. It doesn't matter what kind of delay they had where it was delayed for almost a year. That stuff was never going to change. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the delay not only helped them polish the game to their standards at least, but also allowed them to also plan out the live service stuff, you know, all the extra characters that are to come. And again, we'll get into all that kind of stuff in a bit when I talk about my personal experiences when it came to the alpha and everything. But a lot of the preview events are saying the kind of the same thing. Story looks good, the characters for the most part are looking good, the world looks fine, but the gameplay is very generic. It's looter shooter. We didn't get enough time with it because a lot of that looter shooter aspect is making builds, getting new weapons, all of that kind of stuff. And you really can't do that in a 1 to 2 hour preview event. You just can't. You need a lot of time on the game and everything. So that's essentially what this game is. The core of this game is a looter shooter that is a live service game that has story elements from the DC universe made by RockSteady, who again is known for their Arkham games. By the way, that team for the Arkham games, they're gone. The original founders, for crying out loud, left the company. Now, I know they left near the end of 2021 / beginning of 2022, give or take. Some of the, news and outlets and everything, they're a little different on some of those dates and everything like that. They're gone. And also those developers who made those Arkham games or helped out with those Arkham games, yeah, they're gone. A lot of the team here, they're either new to the team or they've been brought in from other areas and everything who know more about live service games, and that's just the way it is. Now, I always have to remind people about this, and people do it in videos all the time. Do not, I beg of you, do not attack the developers for making this game. There are some people who actually enjoy making these types of games, which is perfectly fine, and there are others who just actually put a lot of passion into this, right? Like, for example, maybe one of the artists who was able to create the way that some of the Justice League members looked and everything like that, or maybe some of the boss fights and the arenas and everything, right? They're not coding the game to put microtransactions in or anything like that. They're focusing solely on their aspect of the game, this area, this section of the game, and they put a ton of good work into it. And you know what? For the most part, I guarantee you we're going to see those parts on YouTube clips, story trailers, you name it. We're going to see that stuff, and everyone's going to be like, all right, you know what? This looks like this, but you know what? That's beautiful right there. That's art. So don't attack the developers. They are being told what to make, and they are making it to the best of their ability. Now, I'm not going to condone violence or anything like that, but if you really want to know who's at fault for having someone like RockSteady make a live service game, that is WB. Most likely, they've been presented with other games from RockSteady over this past decade, and they wanted a live service game because they are chasing trends and want that money that they are seeing other companies make. That's just the way it is, okay? So, if you're expecting a typical single-player story game from the DC universe, from RockSteady, this is not the game, okay? This is before I'm even getting into my personal thoughts and opinions on the game. If you're expecting that type of game, don't. Just stop looking at these trailers, stop expecting it to be like that. Go move on. There are tons of other games either from 2023 that you most likely have not played, or you haven't been able to get through all of them. And there's even some cool games coming out right now. Heck, you know what? I got 2 for you right now, and they even have demos. Yes, I know demos, those things back in the old days of gaming. They're not really a thing as much, but they are starting to make a small comeback. First game is going to be The Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, made by Ubisoft. And the second one is Grand Blue Fantasy Relinks. Both these games right now, demos available on all platforms. At least I think they're available on all platforms. Go check them out. You don't have to deal with this game anymore, okay? Now, for everyone who is still around here, or maybe you still are in a little bit of denial that maybe this game can be a little different, let's talk about this game in general, because I got to play the alpha, and I played it on PC. I either had a chance to pick Xbox, PlayStation, or PC, and they had that weird thing, and I'll show a screenshot if I still have it on my phone, where they said, we recommend playing with a controller, even on PC. And I'm like, great. So is this another like terrible PC port essentially? You know, because let's be honest, PC ports have not been the greatest over the last few years, and for quite a while actually. But regardless, I wanted to try it on a PC and see if that really was the case, because, you know, at least you can still remap controls and everything, and I did everything like that. But we'll get into how that all went in a little bit, okay? Now, the first thing I need to talk about before getting into my personal experiences just real quickly is if you enjoy looter shooters, then you're probably going to enjoy this game because, again, it's more built around live service. The question is, though, will this last, okay? Now, in terms of my experience when it comes to any kind of live service game or looter shooters or anything like that, I've put about 2,000 hours into Destiny 2, which again is another looter shooter, and I've put well over 100 hours into something like Diablo. Diablo 3, I played a ton when I was younger. In fact, it was one of the first games I ever bought for my PC, and I actually love that game, going around into the different dungeons and everything like that, getting new loot, making new builds and everything like that. And that's the key thing right here. As a looter shooter, that's what you're doing. You're farming for weapons, you're farming for armor, and you're trying to make new builds to make your character the way you want. Now, it's a little different in terms of something like Destiny or Diablo compared to this game, because this game, they still have to be able to keep those characters that you see. There's no custom-made characters or anything like that. So there's already definitely some roadblocks that they're gonna start hitting when it comes to this particular type of live service. So I've laid out 4 areas that I want to talk about: gameplay and shooting, the open world and traversal, characters in the story, and post-game. So without further ado, let's get into the first one, which is gameplay and shooting. Now, when it comes to a game, doesn't matter what game it is, whether it's an RPG, action game, shooter, you name it, gameplay is one of the most important things. Doesn't matter how good the story is, doesn't matter how beautiful it looks, if the game is not fun to play for you, then you're not going to play it. right? That's why people prefer different types of games. You'll find some people who don't like Elden Ring or they don't like Call of Duty or something like that, right? It's because they just don't find the games fun. Most reasonable people, they don't go online and, just start calling people names for playing a game or anything like that. And you shouldn't either. But regardless, if a game's not fun, then you're not going to play it. So how was it playing the game? How was it moving my character? How was it shooting the guns and everything? Because again, this is a looter shooter game. I mean, they literally gave guns to all 4 of the characters, even though, again, you have something like Captain Boomerang and Sharkman, all that stuff, right? Because that's how you do it. You can't have different boomerangs dropping for Captain Boomerang, as kind of funny as that would be. You have to give him different weapons and loot and things that you can farm for to make his build the best way that you possibly can, right? And again, as somebody who has played a ton of both third-person shooters and first-person shooters, because again, this is a third-person action game. It's over the shoulder. You can see their head, see the weapon and everything like that, and all the reticle. I give the shooting a pass, I guess. It's definitely not the best shooting. One of the reasons that I personally, probably to this day, still play Destiny is because the shooting is some of the best in the business. Now, Destiny 2 has definitely gotten stale over the last few years. The biggest thing that's kept me going, and we'll talk about this in that section, is things like the story and the lore and everything like that. But the overall gameplay, as much as I can complain about Destiny 2 and want it to be better, because in the end, that's what I want for it, it's still fun to pick up my mouse, pick up my keyboard or controller, and be able to fire the weapon, take down enemies, play PvP, anything like that. That is what it is. And when it came to playing in the alpha, again, this is the only experience I have, and this is the alpha. When it came to playing the alpha in Suicide Squad, it just felt, again, fine. It wasn't very snappy when it came to aiming down sights, which, again, in a third-person shooter like this, it's kind of like, see ya, and then it kind of like zooms a little bit more into the back. Again, if you've played a third-person shooter, you know exactly what I'm talking about, unless you go into like a sniper or anything like that. But overall, the shooting just felt fine. It wasn't terrible by any means. It wasn't like unplayable, but it wasn't the greatest. And it just, again, it felt like a very generic third-person shooter game, right? It almost felt like the shooting was from like 5 years, 6 years ago or something like that. Like that's just the way it felt. It almost felt very, and I really hate using this term. I really, really hate using this term. It almost felt Fortnite when I originally played Fortnite. I haven't touched Fortnite in quite a long time, but that's just kind of how it felt, right? Like it wasn't bad. It wasn't up to the top standards that I was used to of any shooting game over the last 20 years that I've been gaming, essentially. So I'm, again, not saying it was bad, just it was average. Now, if you're seeing this little picture up on screen, one of the other things in the gameplay loop, I would say, is that they're trying to take aspects from the Arkham games to, again, it's all marketing and everything like that, to try and weave that into this kind of third-person shooter game, essentially, right? That's what they're trying to do. And it's things like shooting the legs on your enemies to then, reveal a weak spot, which then you go up to them and you'll whack them with your melee, and then that like provides your shield to them. They're also trying to take aspects from the free flow combat that we saw in Arkham and trying to bring it over here, where if you're getting constant headshots and everything, you're trying to get constant body shots on certain enemies and you go up to them and you can get kind of this animated takedown and everything like that, you'll recognize part of that from the Arkham games, right? It was like in the original Arkham games, you hit both triangle and circle depending on what controller you're on, and then you like did a massive brutal takedown, right? Well, you've probably been seeing some of that in the trailers and everything and some of the preview events where that's exactly what they do. You build up combos and everything. You're seeing that combo on the left side of the screen, and then boom, you get to do this kind of flashy takedown. So they're trying to do things like that. I will say though, while I get that particular aspect of it with the cool flashy combat and everything, I absolutely hate the whole shield thing that they have going on, where you have to purposely shoot the legs of the enemies to stun them and then go up and whack them to get your shield back. I did not like that, okay? You can enjoy it personally. I'm not saying that you're a bad person or a bad gamer for enjoying something like that. And if you enjoyed that, whether it was in the alpha or you're playing in the full game, that's totally fine. I absolutely hate it, because what are we trained to do when it comes to a shooter game, essentially, right? You go for the head, you go for the crit spot or anything like that. I have to shoot him in the leg to then finally get them to bend over and go up and smack him, essentially. I just sounded kind of dirty. I don't know if it was. Editors, make fun of me if you want to. But I hated that mechanic in the game. And as much as I tried to avoid it, there are times where there are a bunch of enemies on screen and my shield gets plummeted down to 0 essentially. And then I need to quickly get my shield back, because once you have no shield, you're a sitting piece of meat essentially, and you'll get dead no problem, right? So I don't know what could be fixed to make me like it more, but I just didn't like the concept of, hey, fire at the legs to make this little X on them and then go up and slap them. I didn't like it. It just wasn't fun. And then the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to the gameplay, when it came to going out into the open world, I wasn't the biggest fan of fighting enemies. Honestly, I tried to avoid them. And this will get into kind of the open world and traversal part, which is kind of a nice clean transition here in a second. But it just wasn't fun fighting enemies. It was like going into Destiny, but you're one of those players who just goes down to the planet without trying to do a strike or a raid or a dungeon or anything. And you're just randomly completing bounties and killing fodder enemies. Like, that's all it felt like. And that is the most boring thing to do in Destiny. I don't care what type of player you are. You talk to anyone who plays these types of games, 9 times out of 10, it's going to the dungeons, doing raids with your clanmates or your friends. Even going into PvP and everything. That is where the game can be fun. And this game, when you're squatting up with like 3 of your friends and jumping around and doing story missions and everything, I guarantee that's probably actually pretty fun, especially when you get into the later end of the game. You've got some good builds going and everything. But to traverse the world on your own and just randomly see these, brainiac purple zit guys drop down randomly out of nowhere, you see them off in the distance, you are not going to go engage with that, because guess what? You're just going to go up to them, shoot them, done. That's it. That's not fun. I'm sorry, it just isn't, okay? So gameplay in the open world when you don't have a mission going on, or heck, even if you're doing these like side missions, they're your typical looter shooter thing, right? You see the shields on the building, you got to go around the shield, kill the enemies, kill the turret and everything. You got to go over here and save this random NPC who might happen to still be alive, or one of your allies or something. That's it, right? Which again, if you're into looting, shooting and everything, that's these types of games, then you're going to enjoy that. But if you've never enjoyed that ever in your life, you're not going to enjoy this. It's just not. So with that being said, let's move on to the next point, which is the open world and traversal. Now, Traversal was actually part of one of their developer diary videos where they talked about the 4 different characters and how you traverse. Obviously, Harley has a little bat wing. You have Deadshot with his jetpack pack. You have the Boomerang using a combination of the Speed Force with Captain Boomerang or something like that. And then you have King Shark, who can just run up buildings and jump and everything because he's, a superhuman. He's half Atlantean, if I remember correctly. I'm not up to total lore on some of these characters, just saying. I'm not a lore geek when it comes to that kind of stuff. But regardless, so you can traverse these areas in totally different ways, depending on what character you're using, which is pretty cool, obviously. But the open world itself, while it looks fine, I would say, I'd personally argue that Batman Arkham Knight looked better. And that was over 8 years ago. I'm just gonna say that right now. I think it looked way better. I'm not saying the world looks bad or anything. It just, again, it looks generic. It really does. And I know they do the whole reason for not having, people out on the streets or anything like that, but the open world going from point A to point B, like let's say you finish a story mission, for example, and they're going to be like, hey, we don't have anything for you, so go out into the city right now and just, collect info and all that kind of stuff, right? It's so boring just to be around this complete bland, empty city. And I know that we've seen some of the previous stuff now where they've got like the Riddler stuff coming back from the Arkham games, so you can go just do one of those Riddler puzzles if you want to. And obviously, I know with your looter shooters and your live service games, they're going to have your typical missions. Go save this, go do this, collect this. Again, typical normal stuff. Totally get it. If you're into that, great. If you're not going to like this. But the world just felt, again, just boring. It really did. And especially, and that was during the alpha, right? When I watched some of these previews in that 25-minute video of the gameplay and everything, I'm like, okay, maybe there's some stuff that they didn't have in the alpha or we haven't seen from some of the gameplay, because like this that they're showing is most likely closest to the release version that we're going to see until the actual release. I'm like, okay, are there things that are going to be popping up on the screen? Are people going to be yelling for help or something like that? Be a little bit more engaged in this open world, and not from what I could see personally. Again, maybe they're really early in the story technically, so you have to unlock that stuff. I'm not really sure. But stop me if you've heard this before when it comes to these types of games, right? You have the story stuff happen, right? You do a story mission. It's really cool concept, the whole 9 yards, boss battle. You come back to your hub and they don't have anything for you until you either A, complete a certain amount of side missions, or B, you level up to a certain level. And I guarantee you that is what's going to be in this game. Regardless of how much fun you think this game potentially is, this is going to be in the game most likely, where after completing a certain amount of missions or getting to a certain level, you're going to have to go full stop and go grind something for a while until you reach said level or something, and then you can come back and continue the story. And that is going to piss a lot of people off if they actually decide to pick up this game for something like the story. Because again, this is a live service game. They don't want you to simply buy this, play the story, and be done. They want you to invest into this. They want you to pick up costumes, buy things, get build crafting, the whole 9 yards. They want you to be there for hundreds, if not thousands of hours, because that is money for them. It's typical live service business stuff. That's just the way it is, okay? I really hope they have done something with this world, because in the alpha and watching the gameplay that I've seen, it does not look fun to go from point A to point B to start a mission and then just do your most generic looter shooter quests. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, dude, you play Destiny. Again, I don't go down to the planet and do those traditional things. I do strikes, I do dungeons, I do raids, which, yes, when you break down each section of those, yeah, they're pretty simplified for the most parts. But again, it's better than whatever these are with the towers and just random buildings and everything like that. And plus, not trying to give Destiny a pass, because it's still been a live service for now. They should be doing better things, and to some extent they have over time. But a lot of these things that we're seeing from Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, it feels like 10 years ago, right? Like, why hasn't some of this stuff evolved? Why not push past what we already know and have seen from other games and make something unique and different in everything, right? Then you can truly be like, look, they do this, we do this. And it would be a lot better in terms of the way people look at your game and everything. I'm just saying, what we might have given a pass 10 years ago, most people are not going to give a pass now. It's not going to happen. So, in terms of the open world, it's a little boring. Traversal, for the most part, I think was fine. It was actually fun to kind of run around as King Shark. I played a little bit of Harley as well. I didn't really play as Captain Boomerang, aside from the introduction tutorial, and I didn't really get to play as Deadshot. So, because again, I got tired of playing the game. I think I played the alpha for around 5 or 6 hours, give or take. So, I mean, if I played for that long, then yeah, it is what it is. So, but overall, it just, I don't know. I hope there's something I'm missing or that they're not showing off to avoid maybe story spoilers or anything. But again, it's your very samey open world thing that you've seen from other games, essentially. All right, let's get into something a little bit more positive, and this has to be the thing that I will praise the game for, like, above everything else, and that is going to be the characters and the story. Now, I will reiterate a couple of things on the character side of things for a minute, but in terms of the story, I like it. The story is really cool. From the moment you become the Suicide Squad, you infiltrate Metropolis and everything, get to get into the Hall of Justice, check out some of the holograms and everything, learn what happened from Batman after Arkham Knight and how the Justice League came to be and everything like that. Really, really cool. Seeing the Flash, seeing Green Lantern, all of that stuff. That looks really cool. And some of the trailers that we've seen with Lex Luthor and everything, that all looks so cool. And I'm like, yes, that was showing me hope back then. And then unfortunately the gameplay happened. Now, I do have to say this right now though, before we continue on, I'm probably just gonna wait for the story YouTube 20-hour video thing to show up. I'm not gonna lie. Like, unless something huge changes or something, you know, all these reviews come out and be like, yeah, no, those previews with people were all full of shit and everything like that and all this stuff, then maybe I'd buy it. But I'm probably just gonna wait for that because again, the story looks really cool. And actually, it's funny, the characters in the story missions and some of those cutscenes, I actually don't mind the Suicide Squad. I've never been their biggest fan, but I've never hated them or anything like that. I don't know why Warner Bros. Is trying to make them super popular, but regardless, I mean, I really like the banter between them sometimes, more on the story missions and everything. It definitely gets annoying when you're doing like side missions, just randomly wandering the world and everything like that. That can definitely get annoying. The quips are just like, God, did you seriously just make that joke for the 5th time in a row? Yeah, I didn't really want to see that. So regardless, it is what it is. So, but overall though, the story from what we've seen, and I'm not even talking like the spoilers or data mines and everything, I've stayed away from that stuff. But the story stuff that we've seen from the trailers and what I saw from the alpha, it looks pretty cool, not gonna lie. So it's sad that this has to be Kevin Conroy's last time playing Batman in this game, and I just don't know how I feel about that. So anyway, regardless though, story definitely looking cool. Characters for the most part, they're pretty good, but some of the quips and everything can be a little annoying. All right, and the final thing I want to talk about here is post-game. Now, you can look at this as one of two ways. You can either look at this as what they have prepared for us after the initial release of the game, but also what happens after you finish the story mode, right? Because most people are going to buy this game and want to play the story from start to finish. So what comes after that, right? Is it going to be more like Diablo, where you simply finish the story and then you're going back into all the different dungeons, try and make new builds, and then you start the game over again, seeing how that build works and everything like that, and there's different difficulty levels to then give you more loot and everything? Or is it going to be something similar to Destiny, where you've completed the story and now you've got things like dungeons and raids and strikes and everything like that? I can't personally picture a dungeon/raid style thing in Suicide Squad, so I don't know if there's going to be story style seasons or something. We know that there's going to be some other characters. That's not a spoiler or anything. That's nothing from data mines or anything like that. That they have told us there are going to be other characters released down the line. So I don't know if maybe like Deathstroke or something like that could be a playable character. I'm not really sure. I'm trying to think of like bad guys as anti-hero people in this universe where we were assuming the entire Justice League dies. Again, it's a game literally called Kill the Justice League. And I know there's some people thinking like, yeah, but we also have someone called The Flash and time travel and all of that stuff to quickly undo it, right? Like a lot of people are speculating that. I won't get into that here. But what are they doing for post-game, right? Like, again, I know that they have new characters that they're going to probably plan to release, typical costumes, maybe some in-game events and everything like that, but they have to keep you there for something, right? And one of the reasons I played Diablo and Destiny after the credits, quote unquote, had rolled and everything is because I was invested in either the build crafting, the dungeons/raids/strikes, or the loot and everything, right? So that's going to be a big thing that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has to show its players. Is the loot worth it? I mean, again, so let's just take something like Destiny, for example, because it's a little bit more mainstreamed, I would say. All those like legendary weapons that you find or legendary armor pieces or anything like that, right? That are unique to that particular thing to make your build something that you yourself can craft and everything. Is the game going to have those unique weapons and armor builds and everything? Is it going to have these events or dungeons type layouts in the city of Metropolis? Or are we going to go to different areas or anything like that? What is the game plan essentially like that? Because one of the things that's killed all of these live service games, besides your typical, you know, performance issues and everything, is that the game finishes and they don't have actual stuff ready to go, right? And it's kind of similar to where Avengers, like they had these plans for all these characters to come in and everything like that, but they had to deal with all the bugs and everything, and then people just weren't really playing the game. And then it took them longer to get some of this stuff out, and so their roadmap looked like garbage. Anthem, anyone remember Anthem, right? Cool concept, cool gameplay, but the whole live service post-games aspect, which is the whole point of these games, because I hit my mic right there, that's the point, right? They're trying to keep you around, and if they don't do that, well, guess what? This game will die, right? Like maybe after the initial release of a few characters, that's it. Like, you know, whether it's June of 2024 or February of 2025, a year after the game comes out, we could see another Marvel's Avengers. We just don't know, right? So I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer when it comes to this game, because again, like you saw in the introduction, it would be super easy to crap all over this game, even though again, I play something like Destiny, but I will probably be done with it after the final shape releases in 2024, because I'm invested in the lore and the story that's been told over the last 5 years, give or take. And this is going to be the conclusion that I see in June. What does this game have? You have to finish the story of Kill the Justice League, right? I mean, unless there's some other Justice League members that were not in the city for some reason and Brainiac put them into hibernation and you get to fight against them, I guess that could be some story stuff. But other than that, if you don't have any of that particular type of stuff, you've got to make sure that your endgame builds and all this stuff are up to par. Otherwise, people are going to drop the game and they're not going to, you know, buy costumes and buy cosmetics and microtransactions and all that stuff. So is that going to happen? I don't know. We'll know in about 3 weeks. Okay, I think I've rambled on enough. I'm sure my editors probably looked at this going like, holy crap, this thing's almost 45 minutes long in terms of initial A-roll recording, which hopefully has been cut down to hopefully under 30 minutes. Regardless, those are all my personal thoughts when it came to playing the alpha, seeing the previews, and why they may be the way they are. I can definitely see why a lot of the previews are not having fun, especially when, again, it's made by RockSteady, and regardless of what it's called, or what the trailers have shown us, I think a lot of us wanted one thing, and it only turned out to be this. So if you're into that stuff, then this game is for you. You will enjoy this most likely. But if you're not, I highly recommend moving on, unfortunately. I know that sucks to say because we all wanted an awesome game from RockSteady that was more in line with what we saw from the Arkham games. But we're just not going to get that. So maybe we will in the future, who's to say? But since the original founders have left, and a lot of those team members have left as well, I don't know what the future is going to hold. But regardless, I want to know your thoughts down below in the comments. Are you buying this game? Did you play the alpha? What are your thoughts on the previews? Let us know everything down below, and we'll answer all your comments as fast as we possibly can. And again, if you're coming at this video a few months after its release and everything, let us know. How's the game going? Is it still surviving? Is it flourishing? Or is it dead on arrival already? Let us know everything. And again, if you like these kind of discussion videos, call it a preview if you want, /review. We also have a ton of guides on all the big games coming out and everything like that. We're definitely going to have some guides on the new Prince of Persia game, definitely Final Fantasy VII Rebirth when it releases, and so many more. And we also have other games that we've covered in terms of guides and everything. Check all that stuff out in top right corner or down in the description. You'll see it right there. Anyone enjoying the finals? I personally am. It has some things that needs to work out, but overall having a blast. So enough rambling though. I've been Talon with Direct Gaming. Thank you so much for dropping by the video. I hope you have an amazing day and an amazing week. Here's to an awesome gaming year of 2024. Until next time, everyone, I will see you all in the next one. Johnny.